Welcome everyone to today's Title Topics webinar. These are Alta's free presentations that we've been offering each month on issues important to title professionals. I'm Jeremy Yowie, Alta's Director of Communications, and today we're going to be talking about ways to improve your customer service. With the market starting to slow and being dominated by purchase orders, we think this is a timely discussion to brush up on service skills to keep orders flowing your way. Hopefully with the snowstorm that rolled through the Midwest and all the way to the East Coast earlier this week, it was hopefully winter's last hurrah, and we can get the spring home buying season going strongly. Before starting, I just need to touch on a few housekeeping items. A copy of today's presentation was emailed earlier today to all registrants. If you didn't receive it, please send me an email at jyowie@alta.org. Again, that is jyowie@alta.org, and I will send you a copy after the webinar. All participant lines are muted for today's presentation. If at any time you do have a question, please use our chat box function, and we will hold a little time at the end of the webinar to address questions. As an added benefit, today's presentation is being recorded, and after it's processed, the recording will be available on Alta's website at alta.org/title topics. I need to thank SoftPro for sponsoring our Title Topics webinars. Their continued support allows us to provide these educational opportunities free of charge. With that out of the way, let me introduce today's speaker. Joining us, we have Mark Isaac. He's the owner of Gorman Business Consultants, a training professional for more than 25 years. Mark specializes in management and leadership communication, time management, and customer relations. So with that done, Mark, I'll step out of the way and turn the presentation over to you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me here. Hello from snowy Minneapolis. Today's high is going to be 32, and we had snow this morning, and they're expecting more later today. I don't know what part of the country you're listening to me from, but I don't even care where it is, I wish I was there. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the 7 slight edges, specifically the 7 slight edges to more referral sources. It's hard to believe that I have been a training professional for 26 years. I can't believe it. April of 1988 was the first presentation I ever conducted. It was for a division of Xerox, and I did a time management workshop for a bunch of engineers and technicians. They were missing deadlines, and they wanted me to come in and teach them about customer service. That was the beginning of my customer service, of my corporate training, my consulting business. Jeremy, I cannot get my slide to advance. Did you turn the power over to me?
I did, Mark, but it says it did. But I tell you what, I will just advance it right now. And
so 26 years, this April, this month right now has been 26 years of being a training professional. In the middle 90s, that's where I really started working in the real estate business. Started working with a lot of realtors, started working with title companies, mortgage companies, underwriters, and really just started getting into all that training. The market was so good back then. I don't know if some of you recall if you were around back then, but the market was so good back then that really, quite literally, the business was just flowing in. And I remember I had to work with title companies to tell them, hey, just because the business is coming in easily and you're not working that hard to drum up new business, you've got to get out there and market and generate new business, because the market's not always going to be this good. Now, way in the beginning, I was the big time management guy. I went around teaching people, work smarter, not harder. I was one of those that taught you every morning at 8 o'clock when you come to work, you've got to write your list of things to do. And then you have to prioritize the list. And then you start working on number 1, which is funny because nobody ever really worked on number 1. Everybody always went to work on the easiest one. Oh, look, number 6 is just a 5-minute phone call with Joe. Besides that, I can ask Joe about last night's football game. So what people used to do back then was they would call Joe and have that 5-minute conversation about work, but then talk for 15 minutes about last night's football game. I still do a lot of time management. You're going to get a little dose of this coming up in a few minutes here, but primarily now the work I do in time management is with managers and leaders. Not only do they have to manage their time, but they have to manage the time of their staff. Then Covey came out with his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he told everybody that you've got to have a mission statement. Well, I became the mission statement guy. I went around working with companies, helped them craft their mission statement. This was like in 91, 92, 1993, right around in there. And really, the work then was rewarding in terms of I liked doing that kind of work. It was vital that everybody, highly effective people, have a mission statement. But what I started to notice way back then was that instead of being mission statements, things that drive us, that motivate us, they really became marketing pieces. And you're going to get a taste of that coming up in just a few minutes here when I talk about big picture thinking. I'm going to help you to write what I call a statement of purpose. Just a little bit different than a mission statement, but along the same lines. And shortly after that, I started working with salespeople, and shortly after that, then I started working with managers and supervisors. And this is where things started to develop for me in terms of the way people look at business. A salesperson wants to go in there and bring the business in and then go out and get more business and bring them in, which is great. That's what they're paid to do. A manager, especially a highly effective manager, would then be more committed towards, okay, how can we keep the customers that we've got? So I saw this really good blend of bringing in new people and trying to keep the customers we've got. I think when you think about it, and I'm sure everybody agrees with this, that it's much easier and cheaper to keep the customers you've got than to go out and drag new ones in. So I really started doing a lot of work with looking at what it was that these companies, in 26 years, I've been up and down the Americas, back and forth to West Africa, back and forth to Moscow, and if I didn't go there, they came here into Minneapolis. I worked with companies from China, Indonesia, Tanzania, South Africa, Vietnam, and they came here. And when I found out, and when I really started to study these companies, and it really didn't matter what industry they were in, when I started studying them, I found out that they were really good at keeping the customers they've got. So I started researching this, and I found out that there were these trends, these recurring trends, themes that all these companies tended to do, and they were things that I like to call 7 slight edges. Jeremy, if you could go up one next slide. There were the 7 slight edges. Now, years ago, and this all started about 4, maybe 5 years ago, I always used to go to companies and say, hey, you have to do these 7 things. And company presidents would say to me, oh, great, Mark, you want me to reprocess everything? You want me to change the way I do things around here? Well, no, I don't want you to do all that. And that's why I decided to call them the 7 slight edges. Because really what they are just the little things that we can do that make a significant difference in not only keeping the customers we've got, but developing referral sources. Not just making them, what do they say, word-of-mouth advertising for us, but beyond that, actually sending business our way, making and generating referrals for us. So this really became my focus. Now, the companies that I've worked with, many of them didn't know they were doing these 7 slight edges. Not only that, but many of them, if they did know they were doing these things, they didn't know that how they were all connected. So my objective over the next 20 or 25 minutes here is just to tell you what the 7 slight edges are, give you some real-world applications, and then connect the dots so you can see how they're all related. So let's go to the first one. Before I go to the next slide here, let me ask you a question. Don't overthink it. It's not a complicated question. For this first slight edge, answer this question. What does Harley-Davidson manufacture? Now, if you said motorcycles, you'd be right. Sure, they get into all the things, apparel, and the other day I saw a Ford F-150 Harley-Davidson edition. and the whole interior was nothing but black leather. It was just a real badass truck. Sure, they get into that kind of stuff, but really what Harley-Davidson does is they manufacture motorcycles. Okay? Now here's the next question. What does Harley-Davidson sell? Now somebody of you may be thinking, okay, the open road, or an experience, or the bad boy image, or all kinds of different answers like that, right? Okay. I'll take the next slide, please. Companies that deliver great customer service don't talk about what their products or services do or what they are. They talk about how their products or services serve the customer. They are the products and services, how they are of service. What goals do they help the customer reach? What problems do they solve for the customer? What experience does it bring for them? How does it make them feel? If you're a title company, you talk about how you should do business with me because we'll ensure that you have a clean title and a clean transfer, and you can be safe and secure and confident that you've got a clear title. Well, that's great, but if you talk that way, you're going to sound like every other title company. You're just going to sound like everyone else. I say this to realtors. What does a realtor sell? Brick and mortar? Well, no, they sell something like an investment, the American dream, a home, right? Companies that deliver great customer service, people who deliver great customer service, talk about their products or services in terms of how they serve. What problems do you solve for me? Everyone at your company needs to learn how to talk about this. It's so easy for a title company especially, or a law office, or even a real estate company too, get hung up on the documents and the procedures and why we fill this form out and why we fill that form out and what does this mean. Really what you want to say is just change your vocabulary so that it addresses how our products and services serve you. This is what they call the servant leader. This is great for you, those of you listening that are in a leadership position. You should be doing the same thing with your staff. You should go to them and ask them, what do you need from me? What do you want from me? This is, if you have this kind of mindset, you become what they call the servant leader. You're going to lead your team by serving them. Well, the same thing is true for our customers. You're going to lead our customers. You're going to lead them by serving them. And that starts with talking about your products and services in terms of how they serve. Jeremy, can we have the next slide? Here's your applications for you. Do a little brainstorm session. This is a great exercise to do with your staff. Sit down and ask your staff, hey, what are the problems our company solves for the customer? What goals do our products and services help the customer reach? If your staff can't answer these kinds of questions, well, then you're in a lot of trouble because now they're just talking in terms of facts and figures and what it is that they do and the process of closing and a title search. When really you want to be able to tell the customer, we do a title search so that you, and then you talk about how it serves, whether it builds security, it builds trust, whatever it is, however you want to phrase it. But this is a great exercise for you to do with your staff today. Just sit down with them and ask them, what is it that our products or services serve the customer? How do they serve? Make sense? Let's go on to our next one. Our next slide here. This next big picture, this next slide edge is big picture thinking. Companies that deliver great customer service think in terms of big pictures. They know why they deliver great service. They know and understand what's in it for me, what's in it for the customer, what's in it for the company if I deliver great customer service right now. People who think this way are able to know and understand that my actions today have consequences tomorrow. That's seeing the big picture. Companies that deliver poor customer service, or people who deliver poor customer service, they only see the small picture. If they only see the small picture and they've got an upset customer in front of them, they're standing there and they're asking, why is this guy yelling at me? Doesn't he know that I've got a lot of important information I've got to enter into the computer before I can go home today? Why is he yelling at me? People, companies that fail to see the big picture are constantly looking at the tasks, at the things they need to do today to get through the day, instead of thinking to themselves, how is doing this thing going to benefit my customer? How is this going to make us a better company if we do this thing? This is looking more long-term. Highly effective people, highly effective companies know how to look into the horizon, understand that their actions today have consequences tomorrow. You see the big picture. People who don't see the big picture and they've got an upset customer in front of them, or when they come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, the first thing on their mind is when and where is lunch. This is failure to see the big picture. Now, if you go to your staff and you ask them questions like, why is it so important to deliver great customer service? And they look at you and they say, oh, I don't know. Or they look at you and they say, well, that's because you pay me. I'm supposed to deliver great service. Well, this is only seeing the small picture, and you've got no one to blame but yourself. You have to get good at helping your staff see the big picture. Now, this is what Covey was talking about when he said about mission statements. Problem is now things are a little different. Back then when Covey was, when I was going around teaching people about how to write a mission statement, many times these mission statements, instead of being missions for the company, they became messages to the customer. They became marketing pieces. And many times these mission statements became all things to all people. The thing to remember about what Covey was trying to say with mission statements is that the why is the drive. You're trying to create a why to drive people to do this. So if your staff doesn't understand why they should be delivering great customer service, if they don't have the big why, they're never going to deliver great service. They're never going to ask that realtor for a referral because they don't see the big picture of how to do this. So through the years, I've just kind of decided that it's not about mission statements. It's more about a statement of purpose. A simple 2-3 lines, something that you can remember, something that drives you. Every company should have a statement of purpose, and then all of your employees should write a simple statement of purpose that hopefully aligns with the company statement of purpose. What Covey always used to say is, hey, we got to write a big mission statement for the whole company. Well, it can't be all things for all people anymore. We've realized that now. So as a company, you write your statement of purpose to deliver clean documents, or excuse me, clean titles to our companies, to our customers. Bingo. Something sweet, to the point. And then hopefully your staff then will write their statement of purpose that aligns with it. If you see on the next slide, here are the steps for writing your statement of purpose. Just answer these questions. What do I do? I am the customer service rep. I am the marketer. I am this, whatever. Then the next question is, who do I do it for? What do they need or want from me? How will it change them? Now, this is a great way to write your statement of purpose. After you answer these questions, then you somehow can put together a statement of purpose. No more than 3-4 sentences. Keep it simple. It's something that I should be able to wake you up in the middle of the night and ask you to recite it, and you could say it like that. Mine is to make the greater positive difference. That's it. I can remember this in any situation. Now, also what Covey used to say was that you should have one mission statement to cover your whole life. Well, that's not necessarily true anymore. You can have a statement of purpose for all the different roles in your life. You can have a statement of purpose for the kind of employee you are, the kind of leader you want to be, the kind of spouse you want to be, the kind of parent you want to be. Just look at it from that perspective. what do? I am the husband of Mary. And then just go on about who do I do it for? What do they need? What does Mary need or want from me? How will it affect Mary? And then you can craft your statement of purpose as being a husband or a spouse of any, or a spouse. So, and the other thing to keep in mind is that if you did this exercise today, and a week from now you kind of read your statement of purpose and you go, oh, you know what, I really don't like it that much. Well, that's all right. As I always like to say, statements of purpose are evolutionary, not revolutionary. They don't come to you overnight. You've got to let it flow. Take a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Try out your new statement of purpose. If it doesn't work, that's fine. Just tweak it a little bit. Go back to these questions and answer them again and try to craft something different. That makes sense? Let's take a look at our next slight edge. And that is the slight edge of courage. And specifically, it's the courage to take action. Companies, people who deliver great customer service act with courage. They come up with these good ideas, even a goal or an objective or just a good customer service idea. They come up with these good ideas, and these ideas are in line with your big picture, and they go and they take action on it. Companies that deliver poor customer service and they've got a good idea, and maybe it's even aligned with their mission statement or with their statement of purpose, and it's a great idea, but they don't do it. And I talk to them later, I say, why didn't you do it? And they say, oh, well, we got into our busy season. Or they say things like, well, I was the only one excited about it, so we didn't do it. Or they say things like, well, you know, this is just the way our industry is. Years ago, I was doing some work for Honeywell. I put them through a 3-day workshop. Towards the end of the workshop, some guy raises his hand and he says, Mark, these are a lot of great ideas, but we're never going to do that. And I said, why? And he said, it's just not the Honeywell way. This is what I call, when you say things like, it's not the way our industry is, or when you say things like, it's not the Honeywell way, or if you say things like, oh, we got into our busy season, these are what I like to call rational lies. You get it? They sound rational, they make sense, but they're lies. And they demonstrate, those kind of excuses demonstrate a lack of courage. If your mission statement, your statement of purpose, your big picture is to lead a healthy lifestyle, and you decide that you're going to get on a diet and exercise plan, and then you think, well, maybe I'll do some running, and then you say to yourself, oh, you know, I've never been very good at running. You know, I forget it. I'm not going to get into this losing weight or leading a healthy life. I'll do something else. Well, that demonstrates a lack of courage. If you come up with a good idea and it's in line with your statement of purpose, whether it's professionally or personally, and you don't do it, that's demonstrating a lack of courage. On this next slide here are some different applications that you can take a look at. First of all, ask yourself, what part of my big picture have I failed to take action on, whether it's personal or professional? And don't rationalize it away. Rationalize. If it's part of your big picture and you haven't taken action on it, it's because you're lacking courage. So look hard at it. Look closely at it. Don't come up with lame excuses. Go forward on these ideas, especially if it's in line with your big picture. You've got to know that it's good. If it's truly in line with your big picture, you have to have confidence that it's a good, worthy goal or idea or objective to pursue. Here's our next slight edge. This one is actually one of my favorites. They're all my favorites, I guess. But it's the slight edge of faith. Okay, so you've got your big picture. You know where you want to go. You have the courage to take action. Faith is about staying on track, moving towards your big picture. So many of us lose faith. If we don't get the results we wanted right away, or we don't get the impact that we wanted right away, we quit, we stop. This is the lack of faith. You have to remember, successful people make decisions quickly and take forever to change their minds. Unsuccessful people take forever to make a decision, and when they don't get the results they want, change their minds right away. This is a lack of faith. If you have a good idea, an objective, and it's in line with your statement of purpose, and you have the courage to start going forward on it, then you've got to keep the faith. Don't quit on it. Companies or people who fail to have faith, who lack faith, are people that I like to say live in their history. They say things like, well, this just is the way our industry is, or this is just the Honeywell way, or this is the way it's always been done. This is living in your history. People, highly effective people, and companies that reach their goals and objectives live in their imaginations. They look forward. They see in the future. They know and understand that this goal, in line with my big picture, how great it'll be when we get there. How great it'll be to achieve this worthy goal. This is living in your imagination. And this is really where you should live in your whole life, not just in your professional life or delivering great service, but you need to live this way in your personal life as well. So what you need to do in terms of application is how can you measure the level of service you personally provide? Is it the number of referrals you get? Look for some kind of units of measurement. It's easier for us to keep the faith if we have some kind of units of measurement, something that's telling us that we're doing a good job. Hey, if your goal is to lose 10 pounds, you're going to go out and buy yourself a bathroom scale, right? So you can see if you're losing 10 pounds. You lose a couple of pounds today, well, great. That'll help you keep the faith. Lose a couple of pounds next week, well, great. Now it's easy for you to keep the faith. If you didn't have that bathroom scale and you don't have this unit of measurement, well, then it's difficult then to keep the faith. Successful people live in their imagination. So you listen to your voice. Listen to what you're saying about your worthy goal. Does it reflect that you're living in your history, or does it reflect living in your imagination? Successful people live in their imaginations. Here's our next one. This one is another really good one. It's a great skill to learn. It's ask affirming questions. Probably in the late 80s, I would say it was very common for sales managers to tell their salespeople, you should wake up every morning and tell yourself, I'm the best salesperson in the company. I'm the best salesperson in the company. I'm the best salesperson in the company. Affirm 10 times every day that you're the best salesperson in the company. Well, the problem was a lot of times the reason why just flat-out affirmations didn't work is that because maybe many times you weren't the best salesperson in the company. So then Maxwell Maltz came out with his book, Psycho-Cybernetics. Cybernetics is a nautical term. It means steering. So psycho-cybernetics, steering the mind. And what Maltz teaches us is that we need to ask ourselves affirming questions. So think about this. Maybe you've done this. I know I have. You've got all those bills spread out in front of you, and you spend all this time paying the bills, writing out checks or paying online. And then when you're all done paying all those bills, you look into the check registry and you ask yourself, why am I always in debt? Or why can't I get ahead? Or why do I live check to check? See, what Maltz teaches us in his book is that our bodies are designed to look for the answers. So if you ask it bad questions, you'll get bad answers. Why am I always in debt? Well, Mark, you're maxed out on your credit cards. You only pay on the minimum, and every day on your way to work, you stop and get a $5 latte. Where Maltz tries to teach us is that you need to ask affirming questions. And typically affirming questions start out with, how can I? Or what can I? Listen to the way you're asking questions now. Are they non-affirming questions? You've got to change them to affirming questions. The only way to start applying this is you have to start listening now to the kinds of questions you're asking. Are you asking yourself, why does this happen to me? Or why am I always in debt? Or why won't my staff listen to me? Those are non-affirming questions. You need to ask questions like, what can I do to get my staff to listen to me? What can I do to lose 10 pounds? How can I lead a healthy lifestyle? How can I earn $1 million this year? That type of stuff. Remember the key thing about ask affirming questions. The rephrasing leads to reframing in your mind. Here's our next one. This is another big one, economics. And by economics, I mean the skill, and it is a skill, of earning more money than you spend. This is a critical part of delivering great service. And the reason is pretty simple. That if you're doing it the other way around, if you're spending more money than you earn, it's very difficult for you to focus on your big picture. It's very difficult for you to focus on your goals if you're concerned about making next month's budget or next month's lease payment, or even in your personal life, you're concerned about making next month's mortgage payment. Poor economics has ruined many companies. Poor economics has ruined many countries. Poor economics has ruined many marriages. It's very difficult for you to focus on your big picture if you're concerned about making your mortgage payment, if you're concerned about economics. And really the best applications I can give for you on this, and this is the one I get all the time, is on the next slide for applications, is you've got to keep a money log. Now, I keep a money log for everything I spend, and I have for 6 years. When I was first doing it 6 years ago, I had to keep a receipt for everything, pile them all up, and then break it down into a spreadsheet. Well, now, guess what? There's an app for that. It is so easy now for you to track all of your expenses in your personal life. This is one of the things, one of the tips I get when I give this tip, I get emails about this all the time. People write me and they say, Mark, I had no idea how much money I spent on lunch. One guy wrote me and he said, Mark, I had no idea how much money I spend on my kid. He said, yeah, I'd give my kid would ask for money to go to a movie. I'd give him $20 and I'd never see the change. So try this just for a week if you can't do it for as long as I can, or for a good month. Keep a money log. Track your expenses. Find out where you're spending your money. This is a great, great tip. Here's our next slide, Edge. And it's really the bigger one in terms of how customer service. And this is the one where this is a 2-day workshop here in Minneapolis. Effort. And whenever I tell people about effort, right away people say to me, oh, great, Mark, you want me to work through my lunch break and work longer hours and work longer days. Well, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to manage your time effectively, and that's a big part of the effort workshop, and I can't go into it now, but you want to put your more effort into delivering great customer service. Now, on my next slide, it shows the quality model. And here's a simple way of where you should be directing your customer service. Ford builds the cars, right? Go ahead and click it, Journey. And they sell the cars to who? Oh, I'm sorry. This is my Hilton experience. A couple of years ago, I was down in Mexico City. In Hilton, I asked for a wake-up call for 5 a.m. Well, I get a wake-up call, and they said, good morning, this is your wake-up call. And I said, well, thank you. And I was really tired. And it turned out it was 3:30 in the morning. So then about 15 minutes later, the guy calls me back again. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, sir, for waking you up at 3:30 in the morning. And I said, well, you woke me up twice. I was almost back to sleep here. So now let's just figure out what has to happen in order for us to learn the difference between quality customer service and exceptional customer service. So there's the Hilton management. And the Hilton management employs the front desk. And the front desk then waits on me. Now they're waking me up at 3:30 in the morning. So I go back to the front desk and I register a complaint. Hey, you're waking me up at 3:30 in the morning. And hopefully they'll deliver just basic everyday customer service, which would be, I'm sorry for waking you up, sir. Here, let me put an alert in here to make sure we never do that again. Now that's just basic customer service. But then if they say, here, sir, here's a free certificate, $25 coupon to go to our gift shop. Or here, sir, we'll comp you one meal in our restaurant. Well, that's exceptional customer service. Exceptional customer service are the things we do for the customer. Where I want you to spend your time is what the front desk has to do, or what your staff has to do, is go back to Hilton management and say, hey, we're waking people up at 3:30 in the morning. This is quality customer service. And what quality is saying is that we are going to prevent this from happening again. Customer service experience. If it was a good customer service experience, then obviously we would want to enhance what we do well. But in this particular scenario, we want to make sure we prevent this from happening again. Now, the only way that this relationship between the front desk and the Hilton management, or between you as a leader and your staff, the only way that this can work is if you have candor in this relationship here. Candor, trust, openness, open communication, conversation. They have to feel confident that when your staff comes back to you and says, hey, listen, I realize we made this mistake. We should really do this to fix it. They have to have confidence that knowing that they won't get in trouble, that's first of all. And secondly, they'll know that you're listening to them. If there's no candor in between you and your staff or the Hilton management and the front desk, quality can't work. And that's what my workshop, Leading Service Teams, does. It tries to build this candor, and this is where you need to focus your energy. There's a zillion different management programs out there. Teach your staff, your managers, how to develop candor with their staff. You can't fix the problems until you face them. And somehow the secret to facing them is going to come from your staff. That's quality customer service. All of your competition is out there trying to do exceptional customer service. It's what I call the moreness factor or the muchness factor. They're trying to do it better. They're trying to do it faster. They're trying to do it quicker, right? You have to do that. You have to deliver exceptional customer service. If you don't, your competition will. But you also have to develop this candor so that you can practice quality customer service. So that if you make a mistake, you're going to prevent it from happening again. I know I go through that model quickly, and I'm sorry about that. I'd like to give you a couple of different other examples about it, but it's just difficult for me to do that in this time frame. I've already ran over. Here's a couple of applications for you. Keep a time log for 1 week. Track how many minutes and hours you spend either with the customer or to the benefit of the customer. If you're not spending 80% of your time with the customer or to the benefit of the customer, you're doing it wrong. You've got to put effort into delivering great customer service. I'm not asking you to work longer hours and work through your lunch, but I'm asking you, while you're working, do something to the benefit of the customer. This is really the only way or the fastest way to start applying the slight edge of effort. Now on my next slide is just a couple of plugs here. First of all, I have a free, whoops. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I thought we had one more. Did we flip through it real quick, or did you take it out? I just wanted to let everybody know there is an ebook. All you have to do is just send me an email. I've got an ebook coming out within probably the next week. Send me an email. I'll send you the ebook, and it just goes in a little bit more detail. It has a little more graphics, and it'll help you get a better understanding of the workshop. The other thing is I have my 60-minute recorded webinar. It's an audio and PowerPoint, much like this one, but it's 60 minutes long. I sell it for $99. You can have it for $49, and it's unlimited usage, so just go ahead and train your entire staff with it. It's a great perk. Just send me an email if you're interested in that. Here's all my contact information. Please feel free to call or write at any time, and I appreciate your time. I'm sorry for running over.
Hey, no problem, Mark. Thanks for offering some advice on big picture thinking and improving the customer service. I just saw a headline that lending was significantly down from last year, so hopefully everyone on the call today can keep the faith, as you said in one of your slides. As a reminder, if you have any questions for Mark, please use the chat box function. We can hang out here for a few minutes if anyone has any follow-up questions for anything Mark may have covered. If you missed excuse me, a part of today's webinar, or if you think others in your office would benefit from listening, today's presentation was recorded and will be available later this week on the address there on the screen. Mark, I'm not seeing any questions come in.
No.
I have one, and you talked about getting your entire staff on board with your I guess mission purpose. Are there any key employees at a title company that you should focus on improving customer service, or is it just really pretty much a team effort?
Yeah, it's a team effort, and this is the way I always like to say this, is that it used to be years ago we used to say customer service is an attitude, not a department. And I liked that, and that's true, but really what's more to the point is that every one of us within the company has the ability to create a customer. I don't care if you're the president of the company or if you're the intern who answers the phone and whose whole sole responsibility is to answer the phone and route it to the right person. We all have the ability to create a customer. So if you go around with this mindset, this big overall purpose that we're all here to create a customer, then as an employee, you can write your statement of purpose by answering those questions back on the earlier slide and develop your own personal statement of purpose. How can I help create a customer? If you just answer that basic question, then it becomes a bigger, greater mindset. It also comes under effort. One of the things under effort is, and obviously I couldn't get into it today, one of the things under effort is engaging your employees. And one of the ways you engage your employees is to help them write their statement of purpose to help create a customer. Once everybody gets their heads around the idea that we're all capable of creating a customer, life is just much better. It's much easier.
All right. Well, maybe just to follow up on that question, is there a fear that if you empower the intern or someone on your staff who might not be quite as experienced as what you do in your operations, is there a fear that they might not be able to match that quality service you want to provide, and you may actually turn a customer away?
Well, there is always that kind of possibility. It's like what they say, right? The chain is only as strong as the weakest link. But this comes down to a coaching issue. It really comes down to your managers and supervisors and helping them to be effective coaches. They've got to be able to tell everybody and convince everyone. Not only develop this, what I mentioned earlier about candor, but they have to be able to coach and communicate the service message so that everyone knows that they can play a part in it. And really it gets down to if there is some concern about doing it wrong, per se, well, then it becomes a coaching issue, and managers and supervisors, leaders in general, need to be good at just being good coaches. Everyone needs to get their heads around the fact that they can all somehow create a customer.
Okay.
We had this conversation, pardon me for interrupting, but we had this conversation earlier today when I spoke to the Minnesota Mortgage Association. We had this conversation about how important it is to just teach, for instance, your intern or your frontline employee. Teach them what's the best way to ask for a referral, politely and professionally. And don't be afraid of asking it. Act with courage.
Okay, well, good advice, Mark. We haven't had any questions pop into the chat box. If you do have a question later, Mark's contact information is right there, so please feel free to reach out to him.
Call me anytime.
All right,
anytime.
Great. Looking ahead, our next webinar will be on May 20th as we dig into the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's final rule for integrated mortgage disclosures, and to help professionals understand what operational changes will need to be made come August 2015. We'll address some of the key issues such as who's going to be providing the closing disclosure to the home buyer, the 3-day rule, calculating the title premiums when policies are issued simultaneously, and how title fees need to be labeled and listed on the closing disclosure. So keep an eye out for registration information for that webinar. Also, if you have any webinar topics you think we should be providing, please send me your suggestions at jyowie@alta.org. And with that will bring us to the conclusion of today's presentation. Mark, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we hope all the listeners found today's presentation useful. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.